So first part that we're gonna do is I'm gonna go into mount position. I'm just gonna pass his arm in front of his face. Put my hand underneath, palm down, not palm up, palm down. Through here, if you feel his chin on your deltoid, you're too high. So if you need to, we'll back up and try to get your deltoid underneath the chin. Through here, go ahead and put your hand behind your back. And all we're going to do now is we're going to sink and drive our wrist and our shoulder together. And then when they tap, you know your choke was working. Okay. Again, though, nose through here. I mean, I literally put my hand behind my back because at that point in time, this is the choke. This is, or I should say, I mean, this is 75% of the choke. I can tap him with this. And when I add the other power adder to it, it's stronger. But, you know, like I was telling the group the other day, or last night, if you have a shitty paint job, what do you pause for? I mean, at that time, all the power adders you're going to add to it. It's like going into a Darce choke and then connecting my hips and falling to my side. That works well when your paint job is already good and then you polish it up and make it look real nice. But if your paint job is already crappy, you can polish it up all you want. You don't get more shine out of the bad paint job. So to me, it's super important to get the choke to work properly. Then when we throw the power adders on it, we get a show quality. We get something that we can actually be proud of. You know, but I mean, I grew up in the generation that was sold snake oil stuff that was like, buy this stuff and polish up your car and make it amazing. You know, it was a crappy paint job and a crappy paint job. Okay. So in that position, just put your hand around. Again, if you feel the chin on your shoulder, you're too high up. So pull back, sink into their chest, and then come forward again. Is a straight down compression. It's not driving forward. So if you feel like when you're, and again, I can't because my hand's behind my back, but there should be no forward push. His chin should not lift up. The pressure should just sink straight down, shoulder to wrist to make the choke. My elbow stays on the ground, my wrist stays on the ground, and then my shoulder just touches my elbow. My shoulder just touches my wrist. All right, give a shot. 1, 2. It's a variation of essentially a rear naked choke. So when we look at what's happening when we hit like a rear naked choke, and then you throw the arm in series with them, anacondas, darces, and the like, okay, it's a pinch of the carotids on either side. In a rear naked, it's my arm that does it on both sides. My wrist catches the carotid on one side, my body on the other. In the arm series, everything is identical the way the pressures are being made. But what's happening is my bicep now is catching one side of Bobby's neck and his shoulder will be the collapse on the opposite side. So that's where the squeeze is actually coming in. Now, we just did it with one hand, and to me, that is how I honed my choke. Okay? Because the moment you bring the second hand in, guaranteed, your pressure is going to start going off another direction and you're going to end up missing the whole thing. So I literally honed my choke by just doing it with one hand the whole time. Okay?
Ah, put my hand right over the thing.
So now what we're going to do is the traditional head-arm triangle or side choke. We go all the way off to the side. That's why they call it a side choke. Okay? I stopped doing that probably about 3 years ago, somewhere in there. Once started going down the pathway of choking with one arm, just like how my rear naked chokes are predominantly with one arm. No, so I switched to this is my preferred side with a rear naked, and this is my preferred head arm. But my preferred rear naked choke is a one-handed choke now. My preferred triangle or side triangle now, it's this method where I don't back step to the side. I literally lay down. So again, palm down, then I bring my other hand in, and I like to go S grip. The reason why I like S is because I like the ability to play with where my elbow is on my right arm. If I go with the gable, I'm limited as to how much play I can go here. So for my head arm triangles, I go with the S. Again, through here, if I don't like where my shoulder is, I'll zip down to get underneath his chin. with this foot through here, typically what I'll do is I'll take my foot, and as I'm pushing it in, I'll kick his leg out of the way, and then I'll just lay down next to him. I'm not even choking him yet. I'm just keeping my arm on the ground. So when I kick his leg through, I'm just laying down. Okay? My arm's not pinned underneath me. I play with my elbow up high, and I use my S grip now to pull in on Bobby, and I'm going to drive my chest into his shoulder. So now I'm not even squeezing yet. This is just me laying next to him, and I'm pushing my chest into his, and I just got to tap. Now when I put both pressures together, I push my chest into his shoulder, and then I roll. Now I'm creating the two tensions that I want. My chest is literally pushing his shoulder sideways, and then my deltoid is rolling down into his neck. So I'm getting both pressures. You felt when my chest was pushing in on his arm. Okay? So at that point in time, it's kind of like I'm drawing my body as tight up against Bobby as I can. Predominantly, like I said, my chest is pushing his shoulder in, and I'm pulling my way in at the same time. Just trying to really connect myself as much as possible. Now the part that I'll do with my hips is the same thing, but that's my choke. The hips is just to take away the wiggle. So if I'm in, now this is the part that a lot of people will get into through here, is they'll start squeezing already. My squeeze is the fall. It's as I'm here, I'm not even holding on tight, but I'm going to take my foot, I kick, lay down next to him. This heel curls in, and I pull my chest in. I pull my hips in to ultimately create my choke. And now also, like I said, it takes away his wiggles. Okay. Now, partner though, when you're doing it, if you don't feel this shoulder literally being pushed in, they're going the wrong way. Something's wrong. Body can feel it. There's a really big pressure that pushes in, and it's literally being created by the top of my chest, pushing his deltoid in. Okay, so give feedback to your partner. This is what I call a blind choke. From the outside looking in, everything is covered up by our body, so it's hard to tell. So we have to give feedback to really know where and how everything's going. All right, give a shot. Ultimately, as we've been really pushing on, if you're struggling, it's almost always the angle. Almost always. Now, angles are, the pressure isn't downward pressure or a downward angle. Okay, my shoulders coming in sideways. It's one of the primary things you want. As soon as they come in, and you go squeeze, and what they want to do is they want to squeeze up with their arms. Everything I'm doing is just collapsing down. So even though I'm squeezing, it's my shoulder that's rolling down to the hand. Whereas when people go in and they start to squeeze, the moment they squeeze, you'll see the shoulder lift up. It's going the exact opposite direction. As where the other variation, where the arm is trapped underneath mine instead of being above mine, that whole pressure is downward. It's chest down rather than pulling up to make everything work. So now, for me, that's easily 75 to 90% of all of my height arm triangles right here. I fall off to the side, I stay on the side, I choke him on my side. I don't backstep, okay, for about 75 to 90% of all of my chokes. I find that the backstep is actually unnecessary. And everybody that's ever told me, oh man, from there, it's too easy to just roll you over. Nobody has. So they've all said it, but nobody's done it. Now, in the instance that I feel like somebody is starting to make a little bit of an exit, what I find is nobody's rolled me over. Nobody's oop-bod me over. Nobody's changed my top position. What they've done is they've started to try to capture my legs to pull me into like half guard or something of that nature to try to gain a little bit more control over my hips. But that's where my back step is. That's what I'm waiting for. So when I'm in position, and again, the biggest part is you got to learn to relax. When I'm here and I'm laying next to Bobby, I'm literally relaxed. Right now, my legs aren't doing very much, and when it comes time to put my pressure in, I'm barreling my chest in, and then I'm dropping my shoulder, and then I'm just giving him a little flex, and there's the choke. So now, through here, Bobby's going to start trying to turn. That's why my foot stays hooked. Now, if he turns to his side, turn to your side, face me, turn to your side, yep. Now when I bail, my foot drops immediately to the hip. Because the moment he turns this way, when my knee or my foot back steps, the gap is half the size. And like right now, if I was here and I went to back step, he lifts up his leg and I get caught. But the moment he turns this way and I back step, what's going to catch me? Okay, right now the legs are here. I'm already on this side. All my knee has to do is drop to the floor and I'm already out. Or my foot windshield wipes back. So if I'm here and Bobby starts to turn to his side, my foot makes the windshield wipe, but look at my knee, it never left. So now when Bobby's trying to turn in, again, my ability to go like the knee on belly, which is more the traditional, it's a way safer transition, and they don't catch you in half guard. Okay, they don't capture me again, because they get to their side, it's just a little windshield wipe, or you can drop your full knee and then hit your choke from there. But again, nothing changed on the choke. Just because we hit the new position, again, too many people, they're gonna sit there and they're gonna start squeezing super hard. The choke is still just my shoulder with my hand, and then pushing my chest into his shoulder. It's still just that. Gets to the point where
It gets tighter as we turn too.
yes. Well, because again, we're changing the angle of the attack. It answering the phone, if anything, adds time on the clock, and that's about it. That's all answering the phone does. It doesn't actually get you out of position, and it actually puts you into a position that's weaker to actually make an escape. Okay. So the easiest way, Bobby, answer the phone. Other side, please.
No, sir.
Okay. So when he's here, okay, without moving your body, push your elbow into my hand. Okay. What structure do we have? I mean, who's going into the gym and it's, 1, 2, 3. You're weak. Sorry. You're here trying to flare your elbow out to create with what muscles? I mean, there's virtually nothing there. Okay. Now, put your arm in front of your face. Okay. Now push your elbow into my hand. I mean, at that point, Bobby's strength is significantly different. How many people do you ever see breaking boards or blocks of ice? No. They're throwing elbows back here, throwing elbows down here, things of that nature. So, what I started doing is, again, if I answer the phone, I'm only putting time on the clock. Yes, I can withstand the squeeze for a little bit longer, but then what? You still have to make your way out. So what I've been preferring to do is when the choke goes in play, is instead of answering the phone here, turn your arm like you're going to throw an elbow strike into the back of their head, and then start to push. Pull your head away, push your elbow in. If you need to, you can put your hands together. Push, push, push. Okay, and then when the gap starts to open, then Bobby's going to get to his side so that he can then take his arm like he's doing a backstroke. Okay, in a backstroke, we don't, as we're coming through, okay, we go here. It's gliding all the way up by our head. So when I'm in, I'll be here, create my gap, okay? Now I'm gonna turn to my side. My hips are gonna go first. As my body's going, my elbow is gonna throw like it's going over my head, not next to my head. So when we go in position, so through here, my elbow is going to push. Okay, if I go here, push into my arm. I mean, I'm pushing. He's not going anywhere, but also my elbow is still stuck. If I go here, okay, and he starts to push in, now the gap is already open. I didn't even have to get to my side. Now through here, the only gap I have to create is the size of my arm if I can get to my side and throw it back over my head. So when they go into their head arm, he's going to drive in. If I need to connect my hands, now we're going to push into the back of the head. Then we're going to turn to our side and free up our arm. Obviously, earlier defenses are better, okay, but we're going to go late. Late is the worst case scenario, okay? So now again, the problem is, if you're using different defenses based on early, late, or middle, what if your timing is off and you're doing the wrong defense at the wrong time? Not that any defense is perfect, but I find that in general, this one is a very all-encompassing. If I do it early, I'm out. In the middle, I'm out. And if I do it at the end, yeah, I always got to work harder. But I still get out more often than not. But, as we were talking the other day, okay, my instructor used to say, insist on it. Okay? I am throwing an elbow into the back of your head. I'm not just pushing. I am launching. Bang! Putting as much pressure as I can into it. It won't be a hit because we're already connected. But it needs to be a violent pop to create the space that you need for the split second that you need it. Then the goal is create the gap and then get out. That's why the next piece, that's why answer the phone fails so much. Put the time on, put the time on, put the time on. What do? Hold on till he lets go? That's what most people's solution is. Answer the phone until the other person becomes annoyed enough that they let go and move on because they're burning themselves out. Okay? So you're just hoping that the other person's weaker than you and they're less stubborn. I'm stubborn. That's why most people, I pop their necks, couple, and then they start tapping even while they're answering the phone. Okay? Give yourself the out. Elbow, turn, and make the escape. All right, let's get, what you I actually do, because I actually have real life experience of things I've overcome as I'm trying to do it. This variation, I have done it. It's not my specialty. I like the choke itself. That's why I spent more time investing in the choke. But Matt does quite a bit where he'll come in and he'll start to set it up like he's going to go for that head arm triangle, and then he'll just sit him up and spin right into a back take immediately off of the arm triangle in that position. So,
Hans, come right.
It's easier with Hans.
So same setup, right? Let's turn like that. So same setup, right? Your feet there. We get one arm isolated with the head. We're going for our choke. This is when I like to come. We're falling to our hip like this. Now this normally works really well when they start to actually like roll away, right? When I start to shift here, I grab the back of his neck. You guys see that? So I don't even have my hands connected anymore. I switch to where I'm grabbing his neck and I'm squeezing him tight to my chest. As I do this, I slide my knee up as high as possible and switch so my top hook becomes my bottom hook. Get my top hook in, connect my hands, and start working for the choke. So real quick again. So we're here in mount. I start isolating this arm above his head. I can even drive him, right, with that pressure to get him to start turning the way I want. I'm going to grab the back of his neck, back of his head, squeezing his chest. This is really important. If I don't keep it tight to my chest and I start to sit up, it starts changing the angles and how he's going to start to roll, right? So I'm squeezing hard, keeping it as tight to my chest as possible. Slide my knee up, whip him around to where my bottom hook, or my top hooks become my bottom hook. Get my top hook in. Sorry about your cup. Connect my hands. All right. You guys need to see it one more time, or are you good?
So for the most part, it looks like you're sliding up into a technical mount.
Yes, exactly.
And then basically doing the back take at like we would from gift wrap.
Correct. Yeah. A lot like the gift wrap. Sometimes I find like the more you can